Ça qu'a fait.
Ça qu'a fait tout le monde, ça qu'a fait. Bienvenue encore une fois dans l'autre bel épisode. Korem, Max, ça qu'a fait, man.
En forme. Moi, nous va introduire nous encore Luther. Faut introduire pour mon capter pour la première fois.
De vous avez longtemps, on va faire, on va recorder, mais n'oubliez les scripts, oui.
Mon cher, nous là, man. Mon cher, grand pile monde qui a passé Korem podcast écrasé. Malheureusement pour monde qui raille nous, nous la pirate.
Nous là, de tourner. They get petit hiccup. They get hiccup along the way, and that's
bon hiccup too. Et bah tout hiccup pas mauvais.
Bon hiccup. That's true. That's true. Yeah. So c'est raison ça fait épisode ça. Non seulement épisode ça, ils sont épisode on welcome back episode. Et puis il va l'expliquer tout. Ça qui t'est passé, comment faire practically the entire 2022, probably 7 months. Man, I can't believe it that long. Nous pas poster, nous pas faire interview avec un guest ou nouveau guest. So c'est pratiquement c'est ça nous allons parler aujourd'hui. Et puis tout, nous allons parler a little bit about goal setting, right? A little bit about goal setting.
Tout bon bagage pour penser avec tout, comprendre?
Oui, of course.
On sweet talk. No, but seriously, man, I think first and foremost, officially, right? It's an apology before we come with giving you the reasons why. Enfin, nous tout ça que t'es passé, faut nous prêter excuse parce que nous connaissons quelqu'un qui t'a demandé nous qui l'a retourné, même nous-mêmes tout nous qui l'a retourné officially, parce que quelqu'un qui t'a passé. So excuse us, but nous là, nous learn from our mistakes, nous préparer, we're gonna do better. Premier bail qui t'est passé, is I became a father. And right after the last episode we recorded, thinking we're gonna have more time, I became a father. And it's crazy how time flies, man. My son is gonna be 1 in 2 months.
That is insane.
Yeah,
man. Now you make it look worse because
it looks
you've
worse.
Been that long since we record an episode. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so c'est pour back qui passé. So
I think mainly because so that happened, right? So people listening in might think that okay, Mac became a dad. You guys are, two host show. Then Luther, why don't you just pick it up and keep it going and wait until Mac come back, right? So logically it makes sense, but at that time, we had some guests that we set up to interview, and unfortunately those guests fell through, right? And then I also was in a position where I was planning for a wedding, right? So there's a wedding planning going on, and at that time I was also looking for a home for me and my wife, after we get married, so we could stay. So those things and a lot more going on, and I'm looking at the load for the podcast itself, because Mac, we take half of the load, right? Mac take care of the production, some part of the production. I take care of some part of the production. So now losing Mac, the entire load will fall, on me. So now I'm looking at it and it's like, okay, I have wedding planning, I have looking for a home every weekend, and so it was just
you did tough. Yeah, you did tough. And if we're being honest, avant bad genoux 2 mois passé, 3 mois passé, and then mariage l'arrivée, mariage fini, and nous venons gain Haitian Millennium Money conférence pour nous préparer pour set up en septembre,
which was a plus for us for the year, actually. We ended up follow through with that conference, and right after that, right, so right after the wedding was the conference. Literally a week later after my honeymoon was the conference. So I had to come back and then jump on it. We did the conference, it went pretty well, pretty great turnout. And then so we're like, okay, well, we should probably start the podcast again in November or December. And then, as you guys know, November
Holidays.
holidays and December holidays again. So it's like,
La ka ne fò loute pou tout mwa Desemblan off. Travay loute. E ben lò bien travay. But tout mwa off. One relax. So,
but to
um,
relax, I enjoy with family. So we decided, new year, we start fresh. We come with new ideas and new ways, and we learn from our mistakes. That's the biggest thing. You learn from our mistakes, and one of the biggest thing is, have making sure that we have cushion. And if something happened, life happens, right? Life happens. And one of the things, like, I think I told you that, Mac, I don't want to live this life where, especially now with the podcast or anything that I do, to pretend that life is all great, right? Because we have stuff that happen, and we are humans. And when it happens, sometimes maybe we don't feel like recording at that time, So we do apologize for that, because the mission is still there. It doesn't change. We still want to highlight the stories of inspiring stories of young Haitian millennials around the world. That doesn't change, right? We have some hiccups in the way. We learn from it. We're moving forward.
yeah, I think yeah, and it like as you saying that my posa 2021 and when we lost the Haitian president, that took us aback too. So things will happen, life will happen, but we will do our best to, in addition to us being human, to think about, reflect on how we're doing, comment nous can improve, comment nous can continue making impact. And we're still looking for Haitians all the time that are, on their game, that we want to definitely bring to everyone else. Parce que gen Haitien ka really bad dehors. And so it's our job to always try to tell the success stories and how they do it.
Yeah.
You know, nous parle en pile is, as our generation, nous pas vle gen sa really scarcity mindset. Nous pas vle le gon ba ki sorti nou kebel pou nou. It's finding this, using this platform to share kind of, quick hacks, quick tips, who's doing it, who's a professional in it, that's Haitian, or even if they're not Haitian, but they can definitely impact the Haitian community. We're going to do our best to bring it out. So yeah, there's even this, one of the things that we talked about too is learning from our mistakes, in a sense that même si nous pas faire un full episode, nous te ka vinn on 5 minutes. Hey, guess what?
This is what's going on.
Yeah, but this is what's going on. And so one of the things that we are going to work on as well is to say, to check in, just to check in with the temperature of our listeners, and check in with, with you, and definitely talking to you as well more frequently.
Yeah,
but
no,
so
100%.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's not that because I think at the end of the day, podcasting can be very saturated, and we understand that you may have a lot of other options, but we do thank you for considering us, and we do thank you for listening, and so we don't want to take your time for granted as well. Because if there's one thing that's happening right now, everybody has their 2 cents. Everybody has something they want to talk about, and so you never keep bonus on affair no ma'am. We are putting it back on a community, and the people that we're getting are from the community. The people that we're getting are from our listenership. The people that we're getting are people that are suggested from our listenership. So we try to keep it as a community as much as possible, but also still introduce some new things for you. So nap suiv, nap tande, nap gen bon bagay kap vini, is saison sa, moment sa, we've been revamping and thinking about strategies to bring some good stuff and some good people and things like that. So
yeah, definitely, and I agree with you 100%. And I was looking at our metrics even when we were out, and we still saw that a lot of listeners listening in. I saw a huge spike on the 25th, so I'm assuming a lot of people were home and listening in to the podcast. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Even we haven't posted for the past 8 months, and people are connecting to the stories that were told on the podcast, and that's what we're all about, right? It's not about fame for us. It's not about trying to get the views and get the accolades and things like that. Our goal is to find people with authentic stories that could inspire the younger generation. That's what we're all about. And I've talked about that in some episodes that I've done. I think Mike interviewed me on one of the episodes about 2 seasons ago, last season. Um, the need to have this abundance mindset in our community, right? So one of the things I notice is like we tend to just hold what we know and we keep it to ourselves, right? So right now there's this whole situation with with the immigration thing going on. A lot of people know the ins and out of it, but they keep it to themselves. So I do see some millennials trying to put it out there and say, hey,
Yeah, yeah,
here's the
yeah.
process. So that's what we're all about, right? Share what we know so that way the younger generation doesn't have to go through what we went through. That's what we're
Yeah.
all about.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I appreciate you guys listening in, and thank you for being a faithful listener. This year, definitely, again, we are going to specifically go after inspiring stories and not specifically what the person is doing now, but how did they get there mostly, right? So we want to know the journey. How did you get
Mm-hmm.
there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, that's how we are going to go about this season this year.
Yeah, their path may not be for you, but how they move through and how they maneuver can be something you can learn from. That's one thing
Definitely.
we talked about. Yeah, because it may not like not everybody has, not everyone have the same kind of
Same
interest.
story. Yeah,
Yes, but you can use someone's story, even if it's in a different field, to kind of learn and to adjust in your field and in your passion. So yeah, for sure.
definitely.
So
Definitely.
Luther, recently you did a poll, man, on IG.
Yes, sir.
I know that's what you really want to talk about.
So, like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we will talk about a little bit about goal setting this year. That is another taboo subject in our community. Financial literacy. I think you can throw sex in there, but goal setting is definitely one of the main ones. And so recently, like we were mentioning, I did a poll on IG asking, "Hey, have you set up your goals for 2023 already?" And the answers I put it in there is yes for sure, no, no need to, and three, I need help. Um,
Mm.
so majority of people said yes, and some didn't answer at all. But I've seen quite a few people say no, no need to, and that kind of strike me, and it's like, that's interesting. Why would someone say no? They don't need to set goals. So I think that's a topic that we need to talk about, and the importance of goal setting, and why is it needed, and also give a Christian perspective on that one as well, as we're talking offline about that. Um, so we can kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'm thinking about is people that say that are, they're like YOLO, right? You only live once. I do what I do. At the end of the day, I'm dying anyways. I don't need goal setting. So, is goal setting important? That's my question to you, and I guess to me as well.
Well, for me personally, I didn't think it was important until 2018. One of my mentors, well, like kind of my first official mentor here in Orlando, kind of introduced me to goal setting. And honestly, the first year or the first introduction, he was telling me about it, but I didn't fully grasp like what's the purpose and why is it important. And so I just set up some, vague goals like, hey, I think mostly like it was related to my career. It's like, oh, I
Mhm.
want this certification, I want this, I want that. Um, and what I saw that whenever I set that goal and I put it on the paper, I wrote it down. There was this urge and this urgency to like, okay, I set this goal and it needs to happen. Like as time progresses, it was like, oh my God, like I said that I needed to get this certification by May. Now heading in February, I haven't looked into it. Right now, I need to, okay, what's the training? What's the training materials that I need to look into to make sure that I'm ready for May so that I can have that certification that I set myself for. So I started seeing a pattern. So after the 2018, I kind of like refined the goals, right? So I've joined different groups and different mastermind where people actually set different specific goals and making sure that they achieve them. And one of the things that I notice is that goals, it doesn't have to be one thing, right? It could be based around your entire life, right? So you could have a goal for that's you could have spiritual goals, you could have career goals, you could have financial goals, you could have leisure goals, right? So some people think that goals, it's only um like just career or like financial. Oh yeah, I want to make 50K this year in my job, or I want to get the certification. But they don't think about, okay, you can set up goals literally around your life, right? Around your lifestyle. Okay, you can set up goals. Okay, I want to travel with my wife twice a year, right? That's just a goal. And how you gonna make that happen is the way you break it down. We can talk about the SMART goals as well, and you can break that down. But bottom line, there's a lot of benefits writing down your goals and actual writing it down on paper, and visualizing it, and seeing that, okay, this is what I need to go, and this is how I need to get it done.
To be honest with you, I feel like, and this is probably just listening to you and thinking about the people that said no need to, but I feel like when we talk about goals, we think it's overcomplicated. It's probably because of influencers, it's probably because of authors. They
Yeah.
overcomplicate. I mean, like they they overcomplicate all of this process that sometimes people feel like, hey, no need to. Um, because for me, for example, I do goal setting, but I don't do goal setting for every aspect of my life. Now I do plan every aspect of my life. I don't even know if that's the same or not. I'm always consciously thinking. It's complicated, right? Like for example, I can show you. I have a little notepad that I keep with me in my back pocket that I write random stuff before I even start my day. For example, I sit down and I say, "This is what I have to do for the day." Wabgadi?
I've got
This
it.
is this is what I have to do for the day, and check it as I go. So like I do those,
That's what a goal
right?
setting and,
So
and,
this
and
is what I'm
planning.
saying.
Yeah, yeah.
This is what I'm saying. I think people sometimes can overcomplicate it. So to me, like goal setting is the process of taking steps to achieve an outcome. Is that,
Correct.
would you agree with that or disagree?
I agree with that.
All
I
right.
agree.
And
I
so
agree
I
with that.
think I think how people go about that is it can be different. It's like, I'll be honest with you. I remember the first time I heard of SMART goals, I'm like, it has to be specific, it has to be timed this and attain, like I'm like measurable. I'm like, listen, this is a lot. So I was listening to somebody on social media and they're like, listen, I think we sometimes overcomplicate things. And so you got to look at goals. Um, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, right? We haven't talked about this. So this is really authentic. This is real, right? You can tell me if we agree on this. There are three type of goal processes, right? There are process goals. I mean, there are three type of goals, right? So process goals, performance goals, and outcome goals. Do you
Yep.
agree, disagree?
I
Right?
agree. I agree.
Okay. So process goals are specific actions or processes of performing. For example, where I'm looking it up, right? Aiming to study 2 hours after dinner every day, or aiming to go to the gym for 1 hour every day after work, right? So that's a process goal. A performance goal is saying, like, for example, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I land my dream job, or I'm gonna get like $100 in my bank account next week. So like there's a performance, it's mostly controllable, right? And then outcome goals is based on winning. So it's like I said, landing. By the time I do this, I want to get this outcome. So by the time the year's over, I want to make sure this happens. And so you're looking more on the outcome. Agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on it?
No, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And I want to add to what you were saying. And the reason why some people are just kind of afraid of goals is some people, like when they set it up. And I think that happened to me in the beginning as well. Like when the idea of you setting up the goal is like added pressure, right? It's an added pressure because now you're like, oh man, because I've seen where people become depressed because they set up a goal and they didn't achieve it, or they feel
Yeah.
like they're about to, fail in a sense,
Yeah.
right? They're about to fail on the goal that they set for their lives or
Yeah.
things like that. And I think we can kind of like pivot a little bit and get into the Christian perspective of that, which kind of aligned because what I've also seen from what I struggled with, all right, as a Christian, is the idea of setting up goals, right? So I was thinking, I was like, okay, I'm setting up goals. So does that mean that I am in control and God is just there, right? Am I pushing God aside and saying that, okay, this is how I want my life to be, right? So I struggle with that as a Christian. I have my own revelation now that God has opened to me, but I want to hear from you as a Christian from that perspective, thinking that, okay, if I set goals, I'm pretty much telling God how I want my life to be in a sense, or how I want to operate, as opposed to what God wants for my life.
First of all, how you know I'm a Christian?
Hey,
Nah, I'm
they will not go in podcast.
nah, I'm
Is it
joking. So
Goku in podcast host? No, okay.
nah, I think so honestly, yeah, right. So I think there's biblical importance um to planning. And so there are biblical, like, even I don't, not to get too specific, but like even when you think about the battles in the Bible, right? Literally, where God was like, hey, this is how you plan, prepare, take these people, work on this, go build this stand. There's planning that takes. So I don't think that's what you're saying. Obviously, we know that we plan, but if you're a Christian, you believe that God has the final say.
Right.
I do think that there are biblical perspective that talks about the people perish because of lack of knowledge. So if you sitting here and you don't have anything, you're not studying up, or you don't know what's happening, even if the Bible verse talks about that when it comes to the word, but you can apply it to planning. You can apply it to anything that you are doing in life, right? If you don't plan, like they say, you plan to fail. And so you because sometimes now I was talking about this with somebody the other day, like when it's nighttime and you go to bed, how do you feel like you had a successful day? Like, what do you look at to say I did what I needed to do? Obviously, you have to have something you go back to, a point of reference, which is a plan, right?
Right.
You had things that you set up to do, right? I was supposed to do the laundry if you home. I was supposed to do X, Y, and Z. And so when you are going to bed, and when you're kind of recapping your day, you can say check, 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 check. I did all of this. So now I can use this as a process that says I've achieved. I don't think that takes anything away from your spirituality, because we all know we can't see past the door in our lives. So
Right.
oftentimes
Right.
we don't have the final say. But um and also the Bible says whatever you ask in his name, if it's within his will, you will get it.
Yeah.
So of course I can ask, hey God, I would like to be able to take time and at 5:30 after work go walk in the park with my son. I don't think that's anything that takes away from your spiritual nature. But I do know a lot of Christians that says the Christian YOLO,
Christian
God is
Yolo.
my supplier.
I honestly, I think that's laziness, man. Come on.
God
I
is my
think
supplier.
because let's think about it. Because I used to say that. Well, not I used to say that. Let me rephrase. I used to struggle with that because I love goal setting. Like the moment like my um mentor introduced me to that, like I was like, man, like there's this urgency, there's this urge, like, okay, I need to set up goals. But I become so obsessed with it where God kind of was being in the back burner.
Yeah, you can't be
So
extreme. Yeah.
that's where the struggle came. And then I realized within that struggle, God also opened my eyes and said, okay, well, um, he talks about how you are literally a fool if you don't plan,
Right.
right? So, and if he says that, and then I'm over here sitting down and not planning and just saying, okay, well, it's all in God's hands.
Right.
I'm literally just being a
A
lazy fool.
fool. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well, I need to rethink on how I think about goal setting, right? So then the thought that come to mind is that, okay, well, um especially around business and career goals, like it has to align with what your mission is, your life mission, your
Yeah.
purpose. That is the struggle that, like, this opened up my eyes. Like, oh my God, that's what it is. Because
Yeah.
you could have, goals and set this, set that, and you feel like you always failing, or you feel like it's a struggle. You feel like you dragging and
Mm-hmm.
but the moment that you align it with your life mission and what God wants you to do, it becomes a lot easier, and it's just flow in a sense. I'm not saying like you don't have hiccups and problems along the way, but there's like this weight of like, goals that you just want, but it's not. You understand what I mean, right? It
I
doesn't
understand
align.
exactly what you mean. You're giving me so many other thoughts. You know what I was just thinking about as you were saying that? You
Mhm.
can know your purpose, you could be working towards your purpose, but because you don't plan another aspect of your life,
Mhm.
it then stumbles you for your towards your purpose.
Oh,
I'm gonna give you an
that's
example,
another
and this
one.
is why I'm saying that. As
That's a
Haitians,
that's
I know
another
some
one.
Haitians who don't believe in family planning in your
Mm-hmm.
marriage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Imagine
Mm-hmm.
you out here saying, God is telling me to do this and start this small business, but now you on kid number 5 because you never thought about it. You never planned it. And so you just sitting out there just like boom, boom, boom,
Oh
boom, boom,
my God, man.
shooting. Bro,
Man.
I literally, so I kid you in this. I know a Haitian pastor who didn't believe in family planning, right? And
Uh-huh.
so they had 5 kids and they didn't believe in family planning. They had 7. So now they got 12 kids all in total. And now I'm sure I'm
On
pretty
take football.
Baz, he's a believer of family planning now. I'm pretty sure about it because I remember the last conversation
On
I
take
had. I think
football plus on reserve.
uh, last time I talked to my mom, who's friend with that pastor, the wife ended up getting her tubes tied. I'm like, oh, in extreme now. You went from not believing in planning because so the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes, like, you can know what you want to be, right? You can say, I want to be this, I want to do that, but everything else can impact because you don't plan, you don't corroborate everything else with the purpose and the drive that you're doing. That can also impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a very good point to highlight, especially in our Haitian community. Yeah, you have to have plans, and yes, you have to be strategic, but make sure it's all the aspects of your life are important and planned. I
No,
I I, I agree with you on that.
I agree. I agree with that because I totally agree with that, because you could know your, so it's one thing to know your life mission, to know your purpose. You could create goals around that. Perfect. Right. But there are some other goals as well, like some habits that you want to some bad habits that you want to stop, right?
Right, right,
If you don't do that, that will hinder your goals that actually align with your purpose.
right,
And
right,
so
right,
this
right,
is why I'm saying it's important to break down the goals to different categories,
mm-hmm.
right? You have spiritual goals, you have career goals, you have business goals, you have kingdom goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
you want to serve, how to want to, just be there for others and things like that, and that's what we're called to do. um I think if we're just wing it and say, all right, just another year, you kind of, you in a sense,
It's
you kind of
problematic.
devalue
Yeah.
life. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like there's no sense of urgency. There's no sense of, okay, I have a life mission and I need to make sure that at the end of the day, you know, when I'm in front of God, and it's not just a time waste here,
Yeah, and
right?
it's part of good stewardship too. If you want, since you said that when you're in front of God, like what did you do with your time? What
What
did
did,
you achieve, and what did
exactly,
you accomplish, and things like that. So yeah, like, if you're
exactly,
listening to us, you make sure 2023 is embedded with some strategic goal setting and planning. It don't have to be complicated. It could be, as simple as walking around with a notebook, or it could be as
right.
complicated as
Mm-hmm.
Luther. Um,
Uh,
so sometimes too, I think it's important to, and I mean, this goes without saying, but it's important if you have significant others to include your significant other in these
yes,
goals.
yes.
Because
Marriage goals. Yep.
if
Mm-hmm.
you have differences in opinions in what you want to achieve in a particular year, quarter, semester, and you pushing head on, that can also be problematic. You know, we're
No,
not going to
I.
be talking about relationships all the time, but I think it's an important thing to mention there.
No, it's totally important. If you're a married couple, yes, you may have some personal goals, but a lot of that is going to overlap to what your spouse have going on as well. So you want to make sure you guys are on the same page on that. So
Right.
just make sure you do that. I mean, if on a practical side, right? Like we're saying, I don't want you to think about goal setting and make it so complicated, right? You can literally say, okay, um, these are my top three, right? You may not be able to cover all aspects of your life. It could be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, I started with just career. And
Mhm.
over time, I've learned, okay, well, I need to put God in this, right? So I create spiritual goals and how I
Mhm.
want to, whether it's Bible study, how many time I want to do that. Now
Mhm.
incorporating my wife and with
Mhm.
prayer and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, you can choose categories of your life that you probably struggling with right now and say, okay, I
Mhm.
need to do something because it's not going to fix itself. Like
Right.
bad habits is not going to fix itself.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure you set up goals and get some accountability partner. That's one of the biggest thing as well. You could set the goal, and if nobody's checking up on you and nobody knows about it and asking you for updates and things like that, you may just let it. And that's my experience. I've had bad experiences. It would just sit there in your notebook and nothing is done because nobody's keeping you accountable. So make sure you have an accountability partner as well.
and I
Um,
think and I think that's where if you want to do smart goals, that's where they come in, right? Are the goals long term, or they short term? Do I need to
mhm.
put a time on it? How do I know if I've achieved it? Right. So this is like where you look at what's measurable. And so yeah, so I do think that as Luther's saying, as you keep going, it can get more complicated, but it doesn't have to start that way. You can just start the goals, you can just start, and then as you expand on different kind of like sectors in your life, like you said, you went from career to now spiritual to now incorporating your wife, and then putting these things into to goal setting mode. Then yeah, is it long term? What do we want to achieve long term? What am I trying to achieve next weekend? What do I want to get ready for tomorrow? And you plan accordingly.
Yeah, no, that definitely. I do hope this episode help you a little bit. And if you have any questions about goal setting, that's something I'm passionate about. I've had this push to just post about it, but and I was like, oh yeah, let's just put it in the podcast. And Mike also gave his great perspective on that, so that's perfect. But
Yeah.
if you have any questions, just reach out to us. You reach out to Korem,
Yeah.
podcast. You can reach out to Mike directly. You can reach out to me directly as well. We could just talk about it, and I might even hold you accountable because I love seeing someone setting up goals and seeing it come to fruition. It's
Hmm.
a beautiful thing to see.
Allez, nous retourner, puis tellement retourner qu'on a nous retourner. We trying to hold you accountable. We coming back with some great topics. Make
Yes,
sure you set your
sir.
goals. If you want to reach out to us, and like Luther said, he's willing to hold you accountable. Definitely do that. But this was great, man. This was good. Impromptu, something that came on our hearts as we were talking this morning, and you said, let's talk about it.
Let's talk
And
about
so,
it. Why not?
and so, yeah, why not? And so we hope that you can learn from it. If you disagree with us too, that's what learning is all about. Let us know. And if you're a professional goal setter, and there are things that we didn't mention, bring them out and say, hey, bring me on the episode, and we'll hash it out a little bit more.
Hey,
for sure.
We'll have a discussion for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, guys, and probably we're available to go to IG Korem Podcast. YouTube will be on YouTube officially this year. We've hired someone specifically, and shout out to you, Bernie. We've hired someone specifically to handle that part of the podcast itself. So you'll see us a lot on YouTube. You'll see us a lot on IG. So follow us. Make sure you give us your feedback. Tell us how we're doing. Give us some people to interview as well, right? We always on pretty much on search mode, looking for young Haitians to interview. So thank you once again. C'est Zami Paul Luther Estil.
Zami Paul Mac Nali.
All right. Ciao, ciao.